Are you our new neighbors?
We're your new neighbors.
Good morning, my neighbors!
All love for the city of good neighbors.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine?
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the podcast of Good Neighbors, where we talk with those in Buffalo building businesses and helping us uphold our reputation for not only good wings and good beer, but good neighbors. Today I'm joined with Marie from Convergence Coworking, and I'm excited for this conversation. So thank you so much for being here and being on one of the first episodes of this.
You said good beer, good what was it?
Wings.
Good beer, good wings.
And good neighbors. So
Okay.
try to be a little
Well,
creative.
like good businesses too.
And good businesses,
good
which are part of our neighbors,
Yeah,
right?
I love it.
So yeah, I think it's kind of unique that we've known each other for like 3 years now.
I say that we've been fans of each other. I do that for all the people that I've been fans of but haven't met yet. So it works.
Yeah, we
So-
had a Zoom call in like beginning of 2020
we?
with Dana.
We
And
did.
I
Oh my
think-
gosh, that was with Stephanie.
Yeah. So
Also,
and then
yes, I
and
remember.
we just been fans of each other for a long
Yep.
time. So it's really cool that we're able to do this. And today is a good day for you. And you had
It was a great day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
Been a
yeah.
busy week. So it's like, what happened today? It was only an hour ago, but
Right.
it
Yeah,
happened.
it's a whirlwind. So yeah, I guess we can start out because we haven't really officially met.
Yeah, I know.
So you can learn each other fresh. But can you tell me a little bit about where we are and what Convergence is?
Sure. So we're at Convergence Coworking. This space was actually really created out of, or it's an accumulation of all the work I've done over the years. So for anyone who doesn't know who I am, I've freelanced for nearly a decade in like social media, marketing, consulting. And then I slowly but surely started getting into advocacy and, being in Buffalo, freelance and co-work. People are always like, what is that? So it's a challenge, but educating people in a certain or a couple of certain areas while building that either as my business and just like with the advocacy stuff, it's difficult, but it's really fun because no one's ever done it. So Convergence Coworking is a co-working space. I like to explain it as a gym for office people, and I think that resonates with a lot of people. So rentable private space. We have a rentable DIY podcast studio, which your cameras couldn't fit in, but for audio, we said that it would work.
It's great for audio.
It's like 80% soundproof. I low-key call it like my scream room because when I have a bad day, I just go in there and I'm like, then it works. But yeah, so the co-working space really, just from freelancing for so long, I've actually been co-working since 2013 and I didn't even know it. I was living in Florida at the time and used to go to co-working spaces for networking events and I had no idea what they were. Started to learn, started working at them, and then moved home, started freelancing, did a lot of work at coffee shops, as all of us do. And then, very, very long story short, the Hamburg Sun actually did an interview about does Hamburg need a co-working space? Because it started to pop up in the city. There's a handful in the city that do very well. Definitely a different vibe from here, but they were like, oh, does Hamburg need this? And they interviewed me because I host Freelance Buffalo and Beyond, the freelance conference here, which again, nobody's ever really heard of it before we started our work 5 years ago. And I answered, yes, of course, that would be really great for our community. Give us a space to go. That's, again, not a coffee shop, as much as I love them. And then I had someone approach me who you met earlier, my business partner, and she said, well, could you do it? And I was like, oh, I guess. Yeah, probably. I've opened other kinds of businesses before, like a nail salon, which is random, but I did that a while ago. So I said, sure. So I put a business plan together. We started looking at property and then we purchased this building and then the pandemic happened. How fun. So it was a long journey, but it really did become an extension of my work and what we were doing. And then of course, during the pandemic, a lot of us were just like working out of my house at like my dining room table. So as this space came along, we went just from my house to here instead, which it's nice to kind of have that separation. But people like to work from home. It's those days that you want to just get out, or maybe you're a business coach and you meet with clients at Panera or whatever, and you're like, you know what, I want to do something a little bit different. You can do most of your work from home, but sometimes you just need an outside space, and that's where we kind of fill that gap.
Yeah, I think that's awesome because I know for me, like coffee shops don't work for me. I am too.
No.
Yeah, well, yeah, especially with this. But even for like when I'm at home and I have to like edit or I have to do the boring business stuff, being at a coffee shop, I'm too distracted and I'd rather just be home.
Mhm.
But it is nice to kind of have what you'd almost be used to at home in a place like this. Like you have a desk you can come to and you can kind of still work and not have to worry about staring out the window and things like that. So,
Well, and thinking about your laundry and your dishes and
yeah,
oh, your dog and oh, I should take them for a walk today. It's nice outside. It's yes, having a home office is wonderful, but it is nice to just be like, I'm gonna pick up all my stuff. I'm gonna go there. Yes, I have everything that you need to do, work with, but it is purposefully pretty much like bare bones in that sense. So you're not distracted. You
Right.
only have your laptop, your water bottle, your phone, and that's it.
right.
The most distracting thing here would be like if you want to like talk to other people that are here, but
Right.
most of the time we all put our headphones in, we do our thing, and when we take a break, we go sit and talk on the lake. We didn't mention that yet, but we are on Lake Erie. We're right on the lake. It's beautiful out there, which is why we have the mural like this.
Yeah.
But we take a little break and go out there, and happy hours out with the sunset in the summer it's nice.
That's great.
Good spot. It does feel like a house.
Yeah, I think if it's very, I like the fact that it's comfortable and you don't feel like you're necessarily corporate. You know what I mean? You don't feel like this
corporate at
pressure.
all.
You
That's
can
our
feel
vibe.
comfortable
Yep.
and you're able to.
You can go upstairs and take a nap on that couch that I finally bought after 2 years. It took me 2 years to get a couch. But yeah,
Yeah.
just it feels like a home away from home,
Mhm.
but productive.
A work
That's
home away
that
from
was
home. Yeah.
created for. Yeah.
So did you grow up in Buffalo?
Yeah, I did.
Awesome.
Well, actually, I grew up south of here.
Okay.
Near Ellicottville. So,
Okay.
country girl.
Yeah.
Country bumpkin. True farmer's daughter, actually. That's where I like to say my work ethic comes from. But I love Hamburg. Love
Right.
it here. When I moved home, I came to Hamburg in 2017, and
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't see myself leaving anytime soon, at least while my kids are in school.
Yeah, I grew up country-ish. I grew up Farmington. It was in Rochester.
Oh, so the other side.
yeah.
You're this way.
So yeah, and my grandma growing up, she had horses, and so I learned how.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yep.
do learn just like how to do things you don't want to do, which is such a valuable skill that people don't
But
necessarily
teaches you
have anymore.
discipline and hard work.
Yeah, there's things that you got to do. You might not want to do, but there's reasons why you're doing them.
This is so hot. I don't know if I can actually do that yet. Well, so one thing my dad said to me while I was growing up is, if you can shovel, in the morning at 4 a.m., get up early, go do that, get inside. It's like nothing else is gonna feel hard. If you do real hard farm work, like shoveling manure, putting in fence posts in the rain in a tractor that doesn't actually have a steering wheel, it's more like a knob.
Yeah.
And like baling hay and all that other stuff. Like everything else feels easy.
Yeah.
And I honestly, God rest his soul, but he taught me that, and everything else, technically, if you think about it in all relativity, he's right.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with that. I try to do the hardest thing. Whatever I don't want to do the most, I try to do that first. Because then
always.
everything else, like usually it's going to the gym. I'm like, I'll work out. And now it's like the thing I actually look forward to, which is kind of a weird way that works out. But yeah, I definitely agree. If you can do the hard stuff the rest of the day is just easier.
And even if you go to the gym just for a little bit, sometimes I'll go and just do like 15, 20 minutes on a stair stepper. I'm like, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Like I moved today, especially in the world we live in where we're sitting.
Yeah.
We sit a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And in Buffalo in the winter, you can't really do much else unless you like ice skating or snowboarding or skiing. So it's a part of a routine. We were talking about discipline earlier, and that it helps.
Yeah.
Just to
100%.
kind of set that standard for yourself.
Yeah, I find I end up like sitting like a shrimp at my desk for so long. I stand up, my back cracks like 700 times. But yeah. So did you go to college or anything? Go to school or?
I did. I went to school. I got a bachelor's in business. People always ask me that. I was speaking with Niagara Falls high school students on Tuesday. They're like, "Did you go to college?" And I always answer yes, and I'm very proud to say that. But I'm also like, especially now, like you don't have to go to college. I'm not trying to be like that, but I did learn a lot. But really, a lot of the stuff I learned in college, I didn't even realize I learned it until I actually owned a business. And I was like, oh, that's what they were trying to teach me.
Yeah.
So either way you flip it, like I was going to learn that eventually either way.
Yeah.
But I do strongly believe that it has given me a leg up in the freelance space, and of course opening this place as well. A lot of people who freelance, as we were talking, they're very good at their skill set, right? Very good at video, very good at editing, photography, brand design, what have you. but they don't know how to run a business. So the one, I'm not calling you out by any means.
I 100% agree with that.
You're like, nope, you're right.
No,
That's
yeah.
it. And so I think having that leg up and really have gone to school for business and working corporate, so to say, for the first 5 years of my career, as I found freelancing, it's helped me so much, and it's allowed me to help more people because I know how to run a business. And when I know how to do that, I host better events. I open better spaces. I'm more intentional on what I'm doing, how I'm doing it for others. So they really ultimately end up benefiting from that.
Yeah.
But that was just my life's journey and path. I'm not, to do what I do, you don't have to go to school.
Oh, sure.
You know.
I kind of, I tell people that, so when I work with businesses, and you're going to come across people who do the same thing I do, but they don't all run a business doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I make videos for businesses, I'm doing it because I know what it takes to run a business. I know certain things that you might not get from, especially if you don't go to college,
Mm-hmm.
you just might not know because you haven't run a business. So you have unique perspectives on what's important to business owners. And
Well, it's trial and error too. If you've been doing this for a long time, whether it be in a job or for yourself, you learn certain aspects. One thing I would say, if college isn't your thing, find a mentor.
oh yeah,
A mentor is like a college all in itself. And of course now they've got like trade schools and certification programs and those kinds of things. And I do education for fun. I just signed up for a modern journalism course. It's just like an NYU certification or whatever. People are like, you're crazy. Don't you do enough? But I like to learn, and I'm a good writer. Always been a good writer. That's what I built my career on. But I want to learn how to really do it and do it well.
Yeah.
And honestly, like you were saying earlier, it's like going to the gym, learning something new. People are like, oh, I listen to audiobooks and those things. Those are all great things to have in your repertoire, but continuing to learn. I said, well, instead of watching 2 hours of Netflix, I could watch 2 hours of my course. If I do 2 hours a day, like X amount of hours a month, I'll be done in a year. If you really think about it like that, it makes it a lot easier. You're not like, oh my gosh, I can't go to school. I don't have time.
right.
We all have time to do something.
Yeah.
It's just whatever we choose to do with it. I
Yeah,
guess.
and I think the more you learn, the more you can earn. It's
Ooh, I
it's
like
just
that. You should say that louder.
the more you learn, the more you can earn. It's
Good.
it's really important to, especially I feel like, actually at every walk of life, you have to be learning something. And as I get older, or we get older, it's like, well, you kind of get entrenched in the way of doing things, and learning new things is really what keeps you, I guess, like sharp.
Okay, so I have a really good story about what you think you want something to be, and then letting go of the reins and not being so uptight. So this space, the first drawing was on a napkin. Like honestly, I feel like every brilliant idea happens on a napkin. It really was like a napkin or something. Oh, I want this to be here, and this to be here, and that to be there. Every time I'd bring someone in to show them the space before it was finished, of course, they were like, oh, you could do that. Oh, you could do this. And at first, I'm just like, no, I know what I want. Like, I know what I want it to look like. I know what I want to do. But then I said, no, what, Marie? Listen, take it all in and just be open to it. So originally, this was always going to be the open co-working. That was always going to be the dedicated working space. But upstairs has changed a lot. I had a private office up there I was going to rent. I had a meeting room. I had a lounge area. And then it kind of turned into exactly what it should be, a space for the members. So we had a massage therapist was looking for a space. She wanted the private office. I was like, well, I don't have any other members right now, so sure.
Right.
So she ended up in that space up there, which is wonderful. Great. Smells great in here all the time. And then, so I kind of lost my meeting room because I moved the private office furniture into the meeting space. But then I realized, well, I can make this a rentable private office. Right now, people really are more, the members are really gravitating more towards the open office space. If someone wants a private office, they can go up there, rent it, whatever. And I just needed to, and actually within that example, her name's Alicia. She's like, oh, I did this or I did that. Like, is that okay? I want to make sure, like, I don't want to step on your toes. I'm like, step on my toes. Like, I created a space for other people to come in and kind of unleash whatever it is that they have or want to offer in a space.
Right.
And I'm exhausted. So like, if you want to hang curtains up there, if you want to put a rug up there, if you want to clean the windowsill because I forgot, like, please, awesome, go for it. So really just being able to kind of let it go a little bit,
Yeah.
and just be like, well, this could be this and that. It's helped my life really overall. If I have having that in my life and just like accepting help and being okay with not exactly what you imagined it to be, it oftentimes turns out better.
Yeah, you get a different perspective on something because, especially if we're so into our work, you have your blinders on, and someone could say, "Hey, let me try this," and you're like, "I would never do that," and then you're like, "Oh, you actually have a really good idea." So it's kind of like you almost the people you have here become a pseudo part of your team in making this place a better place, which
Yeah.
is really
Well,
cool.
and that's what a co-working space is. It should be created for their members. And if you've been to other co-working spaces, they have a different vibe in the sense like you go there and they kind of set the tone. Here, I mean, Convergence is the combining of two things, right? So nothing I do here is out of collaboration. So it's really it's just kind of the whole thing.
Yeah,
You
no,
know what I
I
mean?
love
Like
it.
it all goes together.
Yeah.
Which works out, and it's a small space. So when this place is full up and ready to go, and we open another one, I think it's nicer to have that smaller, more cozy space. There's a lot of that big rentable available office space that can exist. It'll be successful forever. But there's always, especially in Buffalo, going to be that in between that doesn't necessarily get served. So
Right. No,
somebody's got to do it.
yeah, I
I don't
think
know.
that's awesome. So what's like the overall, I guess, vision for what you want Convergence to be? Like, do you have like
I mean, really, what I just
you
said,
achieved it?
just like a place where people can come in and do what they want to do. I have a different approach to events. So we actually just built out our calendar of events for this year. And again, I don't want to drive the events. I'm not the co-working space that's going to say, "Oh, well, this is our calendar. This is what I want to do." Blah 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 blah.
Right.
I have people say, "Oh, I'd love to do an event here. Love to do an event here." Okay, great. I need more people. I need people to know who I am. So you host the event. We'll co-market it together. You can come in on the day of your event, do your thing. It's done collaboratively. So I actually don't host an event here unless someone else is helping me, share that weight.
That's cool.
So, and I think that's different. There's a lot of spaces that successfully drive their own event calendar and their schedule. But frankly, I don't have the capacity to do it.
Right.
I mentioned earlier, 3 businesses, 2 kids, 1 of me. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
So it's not, but it goes with the mission of all the other things that I do is that it's done together. So
Yeah. Are there any kind of maybe misconceptions or are things about co-working spaces that you hear all the time when you bring it up to people?
they just ask what it is.
Yeah.
What's co-working? It's a co-op. They I'm like co-op food. Co-working is exactly what it is. And I think that's just what's a product of our what's the word? Our economic situation, and just like bringing something new is just educating people. So I've also learned to be very patient. I still get the question, "Oh, what's freelance?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I've hosted this event for 5 years. You follow me on LinkedIn. Have you not paid attention?" But I don't say that anymore. Maybe I did at the beginning. I don't know. But now I'm just like, well, actually, freelance is, and I just explain it because the more patient you are and the more educating you are to other people, they'll remember you. People, they reach out to me all the time. They're like, "Oh, I Googled freelance or co-work and you show up every 2 seconds." And apparently now the water tastings happening on Reddit. So that's super fun. So I'm just learning like having patience and just sharing that more and more. It all comes back around.
Yeah.
And we want it to come back around sooner than later, but it does do
Yeah.
it. It does.
So this would be a good segue. What is freelancing? I guess so. When on the way over here, I think, because I think everybody has an idea what freelancing is, but I think some of those ideas might be not really what it is, or they're like I'd like to hear what your interpretation.
Well, really,
of
it's a
freelancing
trendy word.
Yeah.
So it's freelancing is a new
is.
independent contractor, consultant. I always lean on people who work for themselves, by themselves for a specific purpose. And that's a freelancer,
Okay.
like there's pros and cons to that, of course. You're working, you're making money. If you're not working, you might not be making money. I've done a talk about freelancing versus entrepreneurship, which there is a clear difference. Because of course there are a lot of people out there that are like, "Oh yeah, I work for myself. Like I'm an entrepreneur." And this is a personal opinion, but I will go ahead and just tell you what I think the difference is. A freelancer is someone who works and they trade, their value for service or for money. But an entrepreneur really builds something that will exist after they're gone, right? So for me, taking the leap from freelance to entrepreneurship was opening a space like this. It operates, it functions, it can bring in capital without me being here or,
Right. Yeah.
running things. I'm not getting paid by time or value or whatever. But then the freelance bit is, you manage my social media, you make money. that's freelancing, but if you build an agency where, you have employees that do the work and if it makes money while you sleep, you're an entrepreneur. If you have to do the work to get paid, you're freelancing.
Right.
But it really is ultimately a trendy word, but it's not uncommon. It's becoming more popular, especially, with the pandemic and the workforce. A lot of people are getting laid off. They're coming around. What's freelance? So they hear it, then they Google it. I gave a tour the other day to someone who said, I had no idea what co-working was. I saw a TikTok and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. Do we have one? They Googled it. And then it turns out she lives like in this neighborhood across the street. So she's like, oh, I had to book a tour. Like I just saw it on TikTok and I wanted to come in. I'm like, oh, that's great. At least you didn't find me off the, the hundreds of dollars of ads I just put out, but like you found me on TikTok. Cool. So it was fun, but
do you find, because that is entrepreneur and freelance, sounds like similar thoughts of how
so
people
similar.
Do you find that people prefer to use entrepreneur because they think freelance is a negative term? Do you hear anybody say,
a lot of people, they kind of put it with like the quote unquote starving artist kind of thing, which I don't think artists starve. Let's just be clear.
No.
And I actually say to people all the time, if you're a successful freelancer, you are a freelance business owner. There's a lot that goes along with that I won't dive into now. But if you do it right, I mean, you can be a 6-figure freelancer. It doesn't take long to get there.
No.
It really doesn't. If you're disciplined and you run your business like a true business. I had a client I was coaching for a little while there in the pandemic. I lost all my actual freelance clients because I was working with like independent and small businesses. That was like my niche. That's who I liked to serve. And of course, they tightened up when the pandemic happened. And I'm like, oh crap, like what do I do now? Ugh. I'm like, what do I do with it? What's in my brain? How do I make money? So copywriting always was an easy one. But people were starting to either leave or be laid off from their jobs. I said, well, I can help them start their own businesses. I had a client who she had hit her first $10,000 month within 4 months of working with me. And honestly, I didn't do it. She did it. It was really just having someone to guide her through what's your service offering, just asking those very simple but real questions, and then packaging it in a way that was easy to sell.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people have the skills to make a lot of money. They just don't know how to package it and get it in front of the people who pay that money for it. And I wonder if you see that people who are identify as freelancers, do they have a hard time charging for their work? Do you think freelance? Some people think it means cheap, but I don't think that's the case.
I mean, sometimes I think a more common conception is, oh, I'm new, I've never done this before, I need to work for free to build my portfolio. Doesn't matter what you do. That is not true. Well, one, we never work for free, and well, just one, we never work for free. That's a whole thing. Never work for free. You can volunteer your time. If say you think you need something on the books to show someone, volunteer your time with a not-for-profit that maybe needs some graphic design help, or a not-for-profit who hosts an event and they need volunteers or whatever. Get something. But also, don't forget, you can fake it. You can fake it. I know this is a graphic design example, but make up a dog food brand and pretend they're your client and make something up. Set yourself a certain amount of time to work on it, and then there you go. Poof, you have a portfolio.
Yeah.
It's a common misconception. They think they need clients to create a portfolio to get the clients, and I'm like, make it up.
Oh yeah.
They don't know.
I hear it all the time. So I'm part of a lot of video masterminds, and because my business is pretty successful now, I get people asking me like, hey, how do I do this? Or how do I get my business going? I don't have any clients. I tell them the first video I made of like my brand message, every interview you saw on there was someone I knew. It was my wife. It was just complete. I said, hey, I just need you to look like you're talking as an interview as a business owner. And so one of my friends just cracking jokes to me, and I'm like, cool, I'm gonna use that clip. So I think the fake it till you make it, it's just showing that you have the technical skills to do something, and then then you have to start networking.
Then you do the real work. Yeah. I mean, what is it? It's like the proof is in the delivery, really, what you end up doing. So
yeah, I think a lot of people use that as like a big block of like, I don't have a huge portfolio yet, and it's easy to just get one. Or I also think defining what free means is really valuable to people. I think for me, like, is it monetarily not getting anything for you, or are you learning something,
right?
Or are you meeting people that you maybe wouldn't have access to? So I think it's just kind of valuing that.
What is it? It's like intrinsic and extrinsic value is what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say. I learned that in business school.
Yeah. Yeah. And I try to tell people, like, just because you're doing something for free, you should still establish the value that person's
If there's
getting.
a value that you are gaining or they're gaining or what have you, then it's worth it. There's got to be something in it for you, and that's not being selfish. It's just being cognizant of your time
Yeah.
and your skill and whatever you're doing. There was something more I was going to say about that, but I lost it. It'll come back.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I think, like, just the last point on that would be that if you're doing something for free, it's, at least for me, it's helpful to let the person know or the business know what how much they're making or how much you're discounting.
I remember.
Okay.
Always send an invoice.
There you go.
That's it.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if it was, if it's done on trade or whatever. And I know that people say always have an agreement. So yes, do that. But even if you're doing something for a family or a friend, not in a rude way, either have an agreement or just have an email, even an email saying, hey, we're going to do this. This is usually valued at X, so they still see that.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, okay, that's what that is. It sets a precedent. It helps you feel better about it, because you're like, oh, I'm doing something for you, but it's really worth this. So you're not like, oh, well, I'm doing it for free. So like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But if you put that on there, you're like, this is the level of work I should be providing. Then it goes both ways.
Yeah. And on the other side, they see that number and they're hopefully would respect that and be like, they're going to be more invested in getting this.
They're like, oh my gosh, they're doing this for me. That feels great. Like, I'm going to give it all I've got.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah. So I think that's really awesome.
And if they go to reciprocate that favor one day, either with their own work or someone else, they'll keep it in mind. For example, honest to God, this example with the mural that we had done here, Jess was here, Wahoo Studio. They're moving to Lockport soon. I was just like, how much would that have, usually cost? And she gave me, a mural price. And I said, okay, that's really great to know. I'm the kind of person, we were going to collaborate anyway, but she hosts events here. I'm like, you have a membership for a pretty long time and you can host events whenever you want. Let's do your art classes here. And you have a South Towns location. I'm like, you've got Lockport, you've got Newfane, but you've always got here too. And we kind of we don't keep it. It's not, like they would say tit for tat. I don't know what kind of podcast is going to come down to, but like, that's what I'm going to say. It's just, we just keep it in our head. Just so we're like, okay, this is even, this is fair.
Yeah.
And if at any point it's not fair, and communication is huge too, in any trade or whatever kind of situation, just saying, oh, hey, this is starting to feel unbalanced to me. I need this, or I need that, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I really do trade. I think trade's coming back a lot, especially when more people are starting to do their own things, their own businesses. It's powerful. You just have to communicate.
Yeah. I think it's very hard, especially if you are a freelancer doing things by your own. You don't have anybody to really help out with that. So that's why finding someone who can show them how to communicate or how to stand up for themselves or joining a course. I'm a huge believer in online courses.
You can help me finish mine.
I absolutely love, my business didn't grow until I joined a course. And yes, I learned a lot from the course, but the community is huge. And I think tying back into a co-working space, you have those people around you that you just get to know who are either right there alongside you or they're a few steps ahead of you that they can give you those lessons.
And I'm going to make this segue myself. I know you're the interviewer, but really that segues right into Freelance Buffalo and Beyond, because that's what that community was created for, was to surround yourself with other freelancers annually or whatever. And really like build this base of knowledge for people to come together, whether they're new freelancers or legacy freelancers, been doing it a long time, or somewhere in the middle. They don't know where they want to go. They don't know if they want to open an agency or like stay working for themselves, or maybe they want to go back into the workforce. So there's a lot of different things, but yeah, no, the event, when you talked about that, I was like, oh, well, we've got the co-working space and then we've got our event for freelancers. And then that actually leads into like this education piece that we're building. So, and the advocacy, because you can't advocate for laws that protect freelancers without the community backing you.
Yeah. I've seen because I followed you for quite a while, you advocate a lot. And I always see you, I think yesterday you were at City Hall. I feel like you're just always doing something. But so can you tell me?
I was at City Hall last week. Another thing about people who follow me, just an FYI, if I post it probably happened like before.
Okay.
I always be capturing content is something that I live on, but I don't always post it.
Okay. So it was posted as a story. So
yeah. So, but I was at City Hall recently, so that's great. No, I advocate for Freelance Isn't Free. It's an act or a law that protects freelancers from non-payment. So it's a super big deal.
Okay.
I would look at the camera and say that it was vetoed in December, right before the closing for holiday, which was very disappointing for us. So actually, with Freelance Buffalo this year, our theme is Freelance Isn't Free. We've made the Freelancers Union our not-for-profit for this year, and we're going to do some donations and stuff to them. But I also want to gather, this is like my big goal for the year, I want to get together freelancers who are passionate about like advocating and getting laws that protect us, which like other small businesses and every other business has laws that protects them, but we don't, which is strange. I want to rent a bus and like get like 50 people and go to the state capitol and advocate and show them like, hey, this is like really important.
So there's nothing in place that guarantees a free. So how does that work in terms of like, tell me.
No, finish your question. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, so what if there's like no protections for freelancers to get payments?
There's not none, but you have to be very business savvy, like always having an agreement. So a lot of freelancers, I know this. A lot of freelancers do the work. They don't have agreements. Even have it in writing. Just an email is fine, but it doesn't always happen.
Right.
There's been times, invoices go out and you don't get paid. Sometimes something happens. Maybe somebody passes away. That would be awful, but it happens. Had a client that, went through the hurricane down in Florida. Like, you're not going to chase those people, like, oh, you just had a natural disaster, but you owe me money. Like, okay, you get that.
Yeah.
But the client that you do the work for and you get half the deposit, you deliver, and then nothing else happens. There's, of course, things you can do internally to protect yourself. But to answer you bluntly, no, there's not really anything out there that protects you other than like going to small claims court and those kinds of things, getting a lawyer. But you don't really have that. Not everybody has the ability to do that. So those types of laws are very important.
Yeah. So what would be the solution or the proposed solution if, say, I was a freelancer and I didn't have something in writing? Is there any way to kind of prove that, or is it kind of like you really should just start like
rule number one, always have it in writing, whether it's an agreement or even in an email, like, hey, I'm going to do this for you and this is how much it's going to cost, this is how you're going to pay me. And of course there's like best business practices. Like I would advise having like a real way to get paid, like a QuickBooks or something, but some people have to do old school, whatever. If you're going to do it that way, say, okay, you're going to mail a check, the check will be delivered X. If I don't receive it by X date, then the work isn't delivered, those kinds of things. Just agreements protect both the freelancers or the companies and the clients.
Yeah. And
it's
if
nobody's trying to rip anybody off.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And I feel like if someone is resistant to signing a contract, then it's a red flag. And it's like, well,
totally.
Like
we could have a whole podcast on red flags.
Yeah. I've learned, the hard way of like just wording in a contract, how it could be like, you shouldn't use this word because it can be a loophole and things like that. So I always recommend that once you start charging other people for anything you do, it's good to meet with someone who, like a lawyer, who can at least just get you set up with a basic starter contract and show you how to fill it out. And then that way, if it's signed, you're protected, hopefully to a certain extent.
Freelance Buffalo, actually every year I make it a point to have, and these are the vital pieces of business, accountant, attorney, insurance agent. There's always one more that I forget. There's 4. But we build a panel around it so people can come and kind of ask those questions, like pro bono.
Yeah,
I mean, like
cool.
you're coming to the event, so you pay for the ticket, but like you get access to them. But also the colleges here, they do free office hours with, we have a lot of small business centers. We have colleges that bring in attorneys. You can go, you just have to do a little bit of research, but it's there. But I highly advise meeting with someone who knows what they're talking about, or meet with a freelancer who already has an agreement. Most of the time, we're nice enough to share it with you. I'll be like, hey, this agreement, I've been using it since 2014, but I had a lawyer review it then. You use it, see if it works, see if it doesn't. Some of them are lessons learned, like, oh, well, I probably should have put that in there, or like put this in there, or like, oh, I didn't have late fees in there. So make sure you have those moving forward. But
yeah, absolutely. And I think you should have a clause that respects your time.
A mentor, just somebody who knows more than you.
Oh, 100%.
That's all.
Yeah.
You really just need that. And it's very hard to do that when what you're doing is something that hasn't been done before. But if you look hard enough, you'll find them.
Yeah. So let's say, what would your top 3 tips for freelancers? I know get in writing is one of them. So we can either use that as one of them, or we can make so freelancers looking to build their business or to grow. What would be your top 3 tips?
Someone maybe who's already doing this.
Yeah, or maybe someone who
I've answered this a lot of times. I'm just trying to
there's definitely ways we can look at it, because there's people who maybe are currently in jobs they don't love, and but there's something they love and I want to start freelancing, or there's people who are freelancing that just want to do better.
I actually think I'm going to steal something from, or borrow something that, what was it? I think I got it. that I'm going to borrow from the organizer of Freelance Rochester.
Okay.
She said this to me yesterday. She's a designer, but by trade. But what was it that she said? It was like concept, strategy, delivery. And I'm going to say that because a lot of us have hobbies and things that we love and we like to do. But is it really tangible? Is it something that you can sell? Is it something that people want? So you got to figure that out. Your concept. What's your value proposition, basically? Strategy. You can't just be like, oh, well, I'm like taking pictures professionally now. You can't just like, la-di-da. Like, I'm a photographer. I bought a camera. It was $500. I'm a photographer now.
You just hit like.
I know. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
You're like, I know. I mean, props to those people. Like, invest in a hobby and do, what you want to do. But that's where the strategy piece really comes in. It's like, okay, you're going to do that. What are you going to offer? How are you going to offer it? What are you going to do that sets you apart? Yeah, and those things. And then the delivery piece, of course, like actually doing it. So I think that answers the question. That's like 1, 2, 3. And it's something I haven't given before. I've done other interviews and I've given other answers, and I don't want people to listen to my stuff and like be like, oh, she just says the same stuff all the time. So that was a new one. Thanks, Madison. I'll give her a shout out.
I think
I borrowed that.
That's very good. And to your point of like saying the same thing, sometimes good advice you have to say it a bunch of times. So, so like I hear there's certain people I follow, they say the same thing a million times. So it's like that thing to say. But no, I appreciate that perspective. And
I try. There's a lot of knowledge out there too, and you're allowed to change. She's like, oh my gosh, if I listen to an old podcast, I'll be like, oh, that wasn't really right.
Oh yeah, I every
Sorry
time I
to
listen to one of
everyone
these.
that heard that.
Yeah, I think to touch on the point of having hobbies, I think at least a lot of my friends are creative people, and I think there's got to be some sort of messaging, or there isn't much messaging around. It's okay just to have a hobby, and you don't have to monetize it. You can do things that you like to do it. 'Cause I guarantee once you start doing the thing you love for other people, and they start having their input, there's a good chance you're gonna go through a period of just hating it.
I love to write, but writing it's a hobby. It's something I can make money doing. But sometimes I'll just, very realistic, like sometimes on my lunch I'll swing over to the restaurant over there. I'll just open a blank Word doc and just start writing like a what do they call them? Just like a piece on something that I feel strongly about. What is it? An op-ed. Op-ed. Thank you. I'll just start writing it, and it never gets published. I never put it on LinkedIn, but I have it. And like someday maybe I'll finish it. But I would consider that part a hobby.
Yeah.
That eventually maybe I'll turn into work. But right now in this phase of my life, like it's still a hobby.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of freedom, or just not to have the pressure of like, will someone like this? Will someone
Or
pay
like
for
cooking,
this?
you know what I mean? I love cooking. I love eating. Love going out for drinks and all that other stuff. But I've never jumped on the foodie train. I never jumped on becoming a food account. But like, if you follow me, all I post is like food and drink and water and all this other stuff. But that's a hobby. That's a true hobby.
Yeah.
And I think having those boundaries, we were saying this earlier too, having boundaries not only with other people, but with yourself. And just kind of keeping your life organized. It's helpful.
Yeah,
Makes you happier.
Yeah. Well, I thank you so much. Where can people find you, or how do you want people to contact you if they're interested in either learning more about Freelance Buffalo or Convergence?
Yeah, of course. Well, easier to find me on Instagram, I guess. And I'm hoping that you'll have the show notes, and you can just put this in the show notes. It's at Marie Rachelle with an underscore, or Convergence Coworking on Instagram.
Okay, I'll pop that all up on the
It's
screen
just
here,
that,
too.
and then I'll give you like my email and stuff. I'm not shy. I put my phone number in a thing that I wrote for Step Out Buffalo. Like, you want my number? It's out there, and it's really like, I mean it. Call me, text me. Hey, Marie, I'm so-and-so. I want to freelance. Like, do you have a minute? Sometimes I don't have the time, but sometimes I do. I'll get in my car and I'll be like, actually, someone asked me for like 15 minutes of my time. Let me see if they're free right now.
Yeah.
Like, I never want to be that person that is like too busy to help other people.
Sure.
But I want them to like actually want it. So
Yeah.
I
What sort of
appreciate
things do you invite people to reach out to you about? Specifically, is it going to be just freelancing, or?
Could be anything. Could be freelancing, co-working. Oh, I'm thinking about quitting my job. What do I got to say? I've got friends, unfortunately, that have gone through like major life changes, like divorce or something. They know I've gone through that, and opening and building a business while going through that. And they're like, well, we know you did it. So like, can you have coffee with me? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Or, so I try to stay unjaded, if that's a word. And just like open to really anything. I'm pretty much an open book.
Yeah, I like that.
As far as that goes. So like, if you can reach me, like, what is it? Kim Possible. Call me, beat me. Reach me. Like, I'm available most of the time.
Awesome. Well, I think that's unfortunately a rare quality, and I appreciate that you have that, and I try to do that too, because the only way, like going back to entrepreneurship, is like building something that lasts longer than you do.
Yep.
And even if it's not your own business, if you know you have helped other people improve their lives,
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a really awesome way.
There's
to
huge startups and things out there. I've had friends and I'll look at their logo. I'm like, I helped with that.
Yep.
I'll be like, oh, we named that together. Oh, like we named that business together. Oh, the logo used to look like this, but I had feedback and they changed it. It's really great to know that you've had an impact in that way, and you don't need the recognition for it.
Yeah.
You just know that it was you.
And you hope that they do the same.
They do that for someone
and
else.
All rising tide raises all ships.
Hello.
Which
They actually asked if I wanted a lighthouse. I was like, actually, I want a sailboat.
really. Okay.
No, I agree, and I'm with you. I do that because someone, if not many someones, has done that for me. So I want to be able to give that back.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure finally meeting you.
I know.
And thank you for being
Okay.
on this second episode of this podcast.
Yes,
So
I'm pumped. Thank you.
awesome. Thank you.